All right, well, let's get started, and other people will join as we go along. I'm Jordan Jankus. I'm with the ARC of Westchester, and I'm a coordinator of person-centered and cognitive supports here at the agency. And what that basically means is that I try and take everyday personal technology and bring it to people with cognitive challenges and see if it can empower different parts of their life. This is our first Take a Byte Lunchtime webinar, so thank you for being part of the first effort on this. And this is a way for various technology vendors that supply products and services that help our clientele. This is a way for them to showcase their products. If anybody out there wants to find more information about what I do and some of the connections we have, you know, just shoot me an email or give me a call on the phone. We've started an informal network of people that are doing things like this, bringing personal technology to folks with cognitive disabilities, called the Tech Learning Exchange. And I'm open to anybody joining that. We have monthly webinars, and we also have a online service where we can communicate and learn from each other. Our presenter today is Casey.levin, and she's a consultant with Dynavox, Tobii Dynavox, and she's going to talk about their products, and they have some very interesting, innovative products that just came out. During the session, if you hear any feedback, that suggests just turn, mute your microphone. If you have any questions during the session, there's a chat window where you can put in any questions that you might have. Okay, so I'm going to change the screen to Casey and let her take over with her presentation. This will just take a second. Okay, so you should see a screen now that says augmentative and alternative communication, a green and white screen, and so it's all yours, Casey.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me today. I am pretty open and flexible when it comes to presentation giving. So if you have any questions, feel free to type in the chat window, and I'll take a look. Also, if you wouldn't mind just typing in your titles or maybe a little bit about what you do into the chat window, I can try and tailor my presentation in a way that you can relate a little bit better. And as people join, I'll probably just ask them to do the same. So I am the augmentative and alternative communication consultant for the Westchester and Putnam County areas of New York, as well as all of Connecticut at the moment, and adults only in the Bronx and Queens. I'm a speech-language pathologist by education, but for the past a little over 3 years, I've been working for Tobii Dynavox as an AAC consultant. So what is augmentative and alternative communication? It's really any device, system, or way of communicating that is not verbal. So AAC lets people communicate basic wants and needs, express feelings, and build language and literacy skills. Without augmentative communication, people with speech disabilities do not have the tools needed to participate in the world around them, and they're often left in silence. So I'm sure there are lots of people that you work with who are not able to communicate verbally effectively. Our communication software is based on this continuum of communication independence. So we have language software that can really benefit anybody across the lifespan. So a young child who's developing language all the way up to an adult who has developed language. We have software that can tailor to their literacy skills, their ability to understand picture symbols, their ability to combine symbols and text, and really form a personalized communication or language system for that person, depending on their age, their chronological age, and their communication ability. So you are working with probably a lot of people with intellectual disabilities, so their chronological age may not match their where their communication should be. In other words, if you are working with a 55-year-old adult, they might not be a completely independent communicator. They may be an emergent communicator. So you can set a language page. Our computers, our devices automatically do it for you, where you can have an emerging adult, and you're not going to see things like Barney for an adult who's 55 years old. You'll see things that are adult context related. So things like the news, talking to friends, talking to children, pets, et cetera, et cetera. Hi, Sharon, welcome. We're going to talk about access in a little bit, which is something that OTs are usually pretty strong in that area. So you'll find it interesting, I hope. So we have 3 different software options that support language. So our first is called Communicator, then we have Compass, and we have our new software, which is called Snap plus Core First. So Communicator is specifically designed to be used for people who are using gaze interaction or eye gaze to access their software. It's primarily text-based, and everything's laid out in a grid-style format. Then you have Compass, which is a collection of page sets or language grids that range all the way from a basic, just simple grid to a language system that can be used with somebody who has a stroke and brain injury. And then Snap plus Core First is a software that we're very, very excited about. It actually was just released last week. And it's a software that really grows with the individual. Jordan and I were talking before everybody else hopped on about how when people start using an augmentative communication system, oftentimes they get set up and they don't go anywhere from there. So they're stuck with the same language that they've been using from when they first got a device. With Snap plus Core First, it gives you the ability to grow your system, and your language or your words that are on the screen will stay in the same place. So you're promoting motor memory in the form of a grammatically correct sentence as your language expands. Question: what's the difference between AAC software and a dedicated device? Also, can phrases be pre-recorded by the user? So the difference between AAC software and a dedicated device means hardware that is viewed as durable medical equipment with the sole purpose of communication. So the insurance companies view a dedicated communication device as essentially a prosthetic voice. So that's how they're funded by insurance companies. So Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance companies view our communication devices or our dedicated devices as prosthetics, and that's how they're covered. And then AAC software is the actual language system that you see on your dedicated device. And then can phrases be pre-recorded by the user? So yes, you can actually record a voice. If somebody is able to speak, you can record a voice onto a button, but there's also a synthesized voice within the computer. So you can say, and actually let me just exit out of my PowerPoint for a sec. I want to open up one of the softwares and show you. Show you what I mean. So you can program the language software to say pretty much whatever you want. And our system has the ability to take pictures and to
master page.
So things like that. So here's an example of a quick fire. So these are just little words that somebody can use to participate in conversation. Let's say we wanted to change this word from yeah to I'm hungry. So we'll make our label say hungry. We can search for images. There's hungry. Or you can take a picture and we'll make it say, I am hungry. Save it.
I am hungry.
Now it'll say, I am hungry. So you can program somebody's device to have exactly what it is that they would want to say. There's also a place for quick phrases. You can put in,
My name is.
and put in the person's name. Personal needs, so here's your ADLs.
I need to use the bathroom. I am thirsty. I am uncomfortable.
And you can make your grid size easier or harder as depending on the person's language capabilities. So that's an example of Compass. Okay. I always mess this up. Hang on. Oh, I did. All right, so Communicator 5 and the I-Series. So the I-Series is considered the dedicated device, so the hardware, this device right here. And Communicator 5 is the AAC software that's loaded on the I-Series. So Communicator has a variety of different page sets or language grids that are available, all the way from a picture-based all the way up to a text-based communication system. In addition to that, there's access to infrared controls and environmental controls. So the person who's using the device can program their TV remote to be accessible via eye gaze. So they can really take control of their entire home. So anything that has an infrared remote, TVs, radios, you can get light controls, blinds, coffee pots, anything pretty much can be programmed to be used from the device. This device is geared towards people who are using eye tracking. So there's a camera down here, or two cameras down here on the device, and that reflects off of the person's eyes and allows them to control their computer. So that's really for people who are not able to touch a device to access communication. You can also use switch scanning, eye control, a keyboard. You can plug in a mouse if you wanted to do that too. Compass is the page set or the language grid software that I showed you a few minutes ago. It's a collection of various language grids. There's about 11 of them that are all custom tailored based on the person's language level. Jordan, do you need a sticker on the forehead for tracking, or is it just controlled by eye movement? So the sticker on the forehead is called a head mouse. Let me see if I can find a picture of one that I can show you guys. So you don't need a head mouse to use eye tracking. A device that's oh wait, sorry, I'm playing a video. A device that's used with eye tracking does not require a head mouse, but a head mouse is just another form of access. So it requires a little bit more neck control, whereas an eye gaze device can tolerate some head movement. So somebody with cerebral palsy, who's sometimes to the side, sometimes to the front, sometimes to the back. Once they get a good eye gaze calibration, they do not have to recalibrate. They can just come right back to their system when they're able to look at the screen, compared to a head mouse where you really have to control your neck. Hold on, let me see if I can find one. Head mouse. I'm just doing a quick Google. So a head mouse is essentially a camera that sits on top of a computer or a communication device. And then you use a reflective dot or a sticker that most time people put it on their forehead or on the rim of their glasses, and that dot reflects off of the camera and allows you to control your computer. Good question. Okay, so Compass has a variety of communication tools. So your topics, there's about 100 to choose from. Quick fires, which are just little words you can use to participate in conversation. Quick phrases, which are full phrases. There's core, which is core language. There's word lists, a keyboard, behavior supports, which could be useful for you guys, I'll show you what those look like. Let me just pull up. I'll do that at the end. There's a whiteboard, a message history, there's pain rating scales, and scripted language as well. This is just an example of what some of our symbols look like. The ones with the black background are low vision symbols. So for people with cortical visual impairment or just difficulty seeing, oftentimes this type of symbol helps them. So a dark background with a bright image on it can help to see the outline. And you can actually customize any of the symbols to look like that. So SNAP plus Core First. We won't get into the super specific. A new system that's based off of core vocabulary. So if you have kids coming out of school, adults coming out of school, I should say, and into your programs, they were probably exposed to core language, which are the small words that are used to pretty much form any sentence you could want. So words like go, when, if, the, they, are all core words. And the system that we've developed combines core words plus the other tools, so your word lists and your quick fires and things like that, to form grammatically appropriate sentences. SNAP plus Core First is built on 3 pillars, so engagement, literacy, and growth. So when you think about communication, we don't think about I want to eat as communication, or as it's communication, but it's not really engagement. It's not social. We think of engagement as meaningful conversations. So when I was practicing, I worked in a day hab, and I would see staff a lot of times say things like, he's being so good today, and the person's really just sitting in the corner, not really talking to anybody. I don't really think that's being good. I would think being good is engaging in positive communication interactions. Oftentimes our clients don't have the ability to do that. So with SNAP plus Core First, we really do give them a way to have a social language system that can be customized based on their ability level. So if they're only able to use one word or one button on a page, we can do that. And that button can say, hi, how are you? Or I love going to school, or something social. And then literacy. So oftentimes therapists and teachers and program directors and OTs and PTs are concerned about symbols. But if you think about it, why not teach literacy? So the symbol for the word the, for example, is 2 dots with a line over it. That is not meaningful. Why not just teach the letters? THE means the. So with SNAP plus Core First, we focus on literacy with keyboards and core word lesson plans and book activities and things like that to teach the sight words. And then growth. Again, we often see people who are kind of just stuck on one page when they're using a communication device or an AAC app. Like Proloquo to Go. Oftentimes they get set up and then they don't go anywhere beyond their original setup. So with SNAP plus Core First, you're able to build your system based on the location or based on size. So you can start with a large number of buttons and hide some of the squares if it's too difficult, and then add them in later. Or you can start with a small set of buttons, like a 3x3 or a 2x2 or a 1-button grid, and then systematically grow it as the person's language develops. Our device is cloud-based. All of our software and hardware are cloud-based. So if you are working with multiple people who could use a device, you can program from your iPad, let's say, and save it to our cloud. And then the person and share the page that you created with all of your users. So you don't have to customize from the actual device. You can customize from anywhere and share with anywhere. So anyone who gets a dedicated device will get a companion app with it. So for example, if you get a device with Compass on it, you'll get a Compass app to go with that device. And the original idea behind it was for teachers in the school system to be able to create or to send their lesson plans to a speech pathologist who can adapt a page set or a language grid from their iPad app and share it with their student, who can then share it with their parent. Jordan said, if you have fine motor issues, can you get a key guard for an Indi or other Tobii Dynavox device? Yes, you can. We have all different size key guards depending on which device you get and how big your language grid is. Okay, so these are our products. We have the I series, the Indi, the T series, which are the T7, the T10, and the T15. Those are touch access devices. And then you have the iMobile, which is a non-funded device, meaning it's not dedicated to communication, but it is an eye tracker that can be used on any Windows-based tablet or laptop. Then we have the Light Writer, which is exactly what it looks like. It's just a keyboard with a speaker on it. And now our devices are much sleeker and smaller than that. So the T7 is a nice device for people who are ambulatory and have decent fine motor skills. It's super light, it weighs a little over a pound, and it runs the Compass software. The T10 is about the size of an iPad. It weighs almost 2 pounds, an original iPad, and it also runs the Compass software. And then the T15 is a great device for people who are non-ambulatory. So people who are using scanning and want a big screen, it's a nice 15-inch screen. It's meant to be mounted on a wheelchair or a rolling mount or a desk mount. The I series is our eye gaze device that we talked a little bit about. It's actually running Windows 10. I have to change this over here. And most people get it with Communicator on it, but you could also get Compass if you wanted that. Then here's the Light Writer. Just your keyboard with a speaker. What's nice about it is the communication partner can see what the person's typing over here. And you can also connect it to text messaging. And then here's the Indi, which is our first consumer-focused or so far non-funded speech tablet. It gets you everything you need right out of the box. Coming in June, the device will be funded by insurance. As of right now, it's not. But it is significantly less expensive than our other devices. It's a little under $1,000. And you get the device with a stand and a case and the communication software installed on it. Somebody said, is there coverage that can be purchased for breakage or loss? Yeah, so we have a couple different warranty programs. The Indi comes with a 2-year manufacturer's warranty. So if anything happens to the hardware, Microsoft fixes it. For our dedicated devices, so the T series and the I series, they come with a 2-year warranty if they're purchased through the insurance companies and a 1-year warranty if they're purchased just out of pocket. And then you can purchase additional warranty. And typically the insurance companies will cover the cost of that. So the Indi, this is just a closer look. It has it's very durable. It has a magnesium case, Gorilla Glass on the touch screen, a strong, nice camera, and it's also infrared enabled, so you can control your TV and things like that through the Indi. We also sell a variety of different mounting accessories. This is often where OTs and PTs come into play with things like positioning and the appropriate place for devices to be accessed. And here's just a couple of examples of our different alternative access methods. So for people who can't just touch an iPad like you and I can do, we have ways to customize the screen and the system to enter or touch exit. You can basically set a time for the person to hold their finger on the screen before a button will activate, or you can set it so the button won't activate until somebody takes their finger off of the screen. Really helpful for people who are able to touch access but have other movements. So somebody with CP, for example, who can touch but their wrist rolls over all the other buttons. There's also scanning. You could use a head mouse. You could use audio scanning, a joystick, eye tracking, and then there's still some people who use Morse code out there. Could you export a series of button presses into a text document that could be handed into a teacher? A series of button presses. I'm not really sure what you mean. I mean, you can, on the iSeries, you can form text documents and then email them. You can also set up a printer and print it out. There's ways to use the symbol communication system to create text documents also. So yes, you can. So just to wrap it up, before I share some resources and answer any questions you have, AAC establishes a means of communication. It provides an opportunity for social interaction or engagement. It promotes receptive communication, encourages expressive communication, decreases frustration, and provides an opportunity for initiation. So the evaluation process is a team effort. Basically how it works, though, is if you have a client that you think could be a good candidate for an AAC system, you'd connect the client with the speech pathologist, who would contact the local rep and from Tobii Dynavox or any other company, and we'd come out and we would help that speech pathologist through the evaluation process. If they feel that a device is appropriate, we go through basic client information form, collect their insurance information, and then the speech pathologist writes up an official recommendation. Then we'll get a prescription from the person's doctor, and we have a funding team that communicates with the insurances on the client's behalf. Then once the device is approved and sent out, your rep will come out and help you get it set up. We have a whole bunch of support systems. We have an app called Pathways. We have funding support, technical support. That's all for free. And here's a link to our online trainings and things like that. We don't have devices, so we're not going to play. So that is the bulk of what I wanted to tell you guys about. Jordan, feel free to share the PowerPoint with the rest of your team. What did you say? Are there certain ways that an assessment can be worded, say for work or socialization? So yeah, when you're going through insurance companies to get funding, it has to be medically based. So, for example, New York Medicaid requires a 30-day trial with data. So a speech pathologist would write up some goals in an initial assessment based on medical necessities. So, for example, we want things like identifying body parts. We want things like speaking to caregivers, identifying caregivers, being able to explain when the person's in pain, really, really medically based. For example, we have a desktop stand that can be used with some of our devices. So the speech pathologist, you would think, would just say, the person needs the stand so they can access the device from a table. But really, the insurance companies are looking for wording like, the person needs a stand to reduce head and neck strain, and glare. So we as reps help the speech pathologist get the wording right for the assessments.
Okay. It's a great overview that you gave. Absolutely great, Casey. We really appreciate it. There's always this controversy between putting software on an iPad versus getting a dedicated device. Like, is there any way a dedicated device could access some of, like, features like going to the internet or?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, so all of our devices, when the insurance company purchases them, they come locked, meaning no access to the internet. But we charge $49 one time to unlock the device, giving you full access to the internet and infrared controls. So on the I-Series and the Indi, you have a Windows PC. On the T-Series, it's an Android-based system, so you have more of a mobile internet. But also one of the main differences between an iPad and a communication device is first of all, the durability. So if we're working with people who have behavioral issues, an iPad could shatter very easily.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, if it's thrown across the room or whatever,
right.
or dropped just the wrong way. Also the placement of the speaker. So on a dedicated communication device, your speaker's facing outward. So it's emulating speech and conversation, which goes out to a communication partner, compared to an iPad that speaks to you. The speaker's front facing. So the original purpose of an iPad was entertainment, whereas a dedicated communication device, the purpose is for communication. So you have a much louder speaker. You can, in case of an emergency, you can hear the device from another room.
Yeah. And also, you had mentioned some of the cloud base of Tobii Dynavox now. Would it be possible, maybe this is a stupid question, but could you have one device and then download different profiles for, like, say, have one device in a classroom and then download each person's profile to that device?
Yeah, essentially you could. You can have unlimited profiles, so multiple people could use a device. If an insurance company is purchasing it, it's purchased for one person, but I have a lot of school districts and agencies that just buy devices and share them.
Okay. So you could buy one device and then use it for several people in, say, like your day hab that have communication difficulties.
Yeah, you could.
Would an Indi be, this is across all your devices as far as the downloadable profiles?
So the profiles you make the profile on the actual device, and then they automatically sync with the cloud. So if you have multiple users, they'll all save, but you have to create them from the device. Right.
But you'd be able to share it amongst several people as long as you have the right profile that you're using.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and an important thing that you mentioned during our discussion that I have somebody in a day hab program that is multilingual and stuff, and then you provide Spanish support in some of your devices, right?
We do, yes.